It's another day in the transfer window, and we have got three big stories, including a here we go. We'll be talking the latest Liverpool, Aston Villa, and Arsenal transfer news. Make sure you go down, drop a like on the video if you haven't already. And make sure you go down, hit that subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts on all the topics we discussed. The road to 100,000 subscribers is well and truly on. So please hit that subscribe button, because 92% of you watch the content every single day and haven't subscribed. Let's jump straight into it. Fabrizio Romano has given a here we go earlier today, and that is Douglas Luiz is on his way back to Villa Park. Douglas Luiz to Aston Villa, here we go. The Brazilian midfielder is back at the club after talks revealed last week. Verbal agreement with Juventus over a paid loan with a buy option clause. Nottingham Forest to send Luiz back to Juve, and then a new loan to Aston Villa. And that, for me, Aston Villa are a proper football club, right? Big news come out in the last couple of days that Tielemans and Kamara are both going to be out for a sustained amount of time. They've got big games coming up. I think, actually, Kamara is going to be out for the rest of the season, and I don't think Tielemans is back until March. But they go out there, they get a Premier League proven player who's played at Aston Villa for a good few seasons, who knows the team very well, knows the manager, knows everything about the surroundings. And as you can see there, Kamara, McGinn, and Tielemans are all out for quite some time. John McGinn's not back until, end of Feb. Kamara's not back until, pretty much next season now. And Youri Tielemans is not back until March. Replacing Youri Tielemans, for me, is the biggest miss, because he's one of those players who his passes can just completely pass through the line. He can split defenses open just with one through ball. And then when you look at Douglas Luiz, he ticks a lot of the boxes for Aston Villa. He really, really does. He's an experienced player. His low move to Nottingham Forest didn't really work out. He's only still 27, where it feels like he's been around for such a long time, in and around the Premier League. He's made 204 appearances for Aston Villa, only made 14 appearances for Nottingham Forest, where he only played, as you can see on the right, he played 710 minutes. But as you can see there, 22 goals and 25 assists. He will definitely be one for, if you play FPL, if you're a fantasy fan, he's definitely one to put in your team because of the amount of defensive contributions he will now get playing in the 6 as the 8 and a double pivot. That, for me, is a really, really good piece of business. And you look at the fact that because Aston Villa do have a lot of winnable games coming up, we'll bring their fixtures up on the screen. They've got Salzburg in the Europa League tomorrow, where they could go top, which would give them huge home advantage going into the Europa League quarters, semis, last 16 if they get there. They've got Salzburg, Brentford, Bournemouth, and then they've got 3 home games on the bounce. I actually believe, I don't want to get too carried away on Aston Villa, because they do need to keep their feet on the ground. But at the same time, I think they'll beat Newcastle in the FA Cup. I think they beat Brighton, Leeds, and Wolves in the league. Bournemouth will be a tough away game because they have picked up a bit of form recently. Brentford, they should beat on Sunday because Brentford aren't good away from home. And Salzburg, I'm not sure how Salzburg are getting on the Europa League, but that should definitely be a winnable game. Now, another big story coming out is regarding Adam Wharton to Liverpool. Now, a couple of Man United Twitter accounts have shared this news, saying Adam Wharton is heavily being pursued by Liverpool in the build-up to the summer, while United are somewhat relaxed around Belieber, who have previously expressed a desire to play at Old Trafford alongside international teammate Brian Mbeumo. Now, I actually think that Adam Wharton is probably more realistic for Liverpool, looking at, the amount of money they have spent. Actually, saying that, if United get Champions League, it could go either way. But what I want to say about Adam Wharton is, I know he isn't going through the best of times right now, sent off against at the weekend in Crystal Palace's loss against Chelsea. But he is an incredible footballer. He's only, 21 years of age. He's very reliable, an out-and-out, defensive midfielder. His contract expires June 30th, 2029. So there is quite 3 and a bit years on that. It come down to the summer, there'll be 3 years left. I don't think he will leave for anything less than, I want to say, I reckon he goes for £70 million plus. I personally think, he is a game changer for any team he signs for. Liverpool have got some concerns about their midfield. They do need a six. They don't really have a six. They have been playing with this double pivot of McAllister and Gravenberch. You look at the midfield that played against Liverpool, against Bournemouth in their defeat. They have now got Florian Wirtz. Szoboszlai has been by far their best player this season, and that's not even close. I do think Adam Wharton would comfortably improve Liverpool's team. McAllister has gone off the boil this season, so a lot of the Liverpool players have. They are massively underperforming. They haven't won a lot of games recently. They drew against Leeds. They drew against Leeds twice, actually. Drew against Burnley. Then of course, lost to Bournemouth. Van Dijk, their key players aren't really stepping up. I don't know why Ekitike wasn't on the bench in this game. He should have started. I think Cody Gakpo needs to be dropped. The Florian Wirtz recently looks like he's turned a bit of form. But they aren't as strong as last season by any stretch of the imagination. You sign a player like Adam Wharton, and you potentially have Adam Wharton in the 6, Szoboszlai probably in the 8, and then maybe Florian Wirtz in the 10, or you go Gravenberch in the 8, Szoboszlai in the 10, and Wirtz out wide. It gives Liverpool a lot more options. Now, look, they did what, £400 million in the summer. They got a fair bit back for a few players that left, the likes of Quansah, who went to Leverkusen, but I do think they just need to basically strengthen that midfield, because at this moment in time, it isn't really anywhere near good enough for what you would class as a team that won the league title last season. And that's what's crazy. This team, won the league title comfortably and they deserved huge praise last year for what they did. But right now, they look like they've gone completely off the boil. We'll come back to Liverpool in a few minutes. There's a lot of news regarding Julián Álvarez again to Arsenal. Arsenal are the leading candidates to sign Julián Álvarez this summer. Now, I've spoken about this story many, many times. Ben Jacobs has spoken about Julián Álvarez. Big credible sources have come out and said that he definitely is one to watch this upcoming summer transfer window. For me, I look at it this way. As it stands, as of the 27th of January, Arsenal, none of their strikers, this is what Ben Jacobs said a few days ago. Several top clubs have made initial inquiries to understand the required to sign Julián Álvarez, the terms required. Deco has held a meeting, and then he says, Andrea Berta is making several calls to understand the summer market, particularly around forwards and left wingers. Now, what's really important is Andrea Berta was the one who signed Julián Álvarez for Atletico Madrid. So for me, I personally think that as it stands right now, he would be a very, very, very good signing for whoever he signs for. I personally think Arsenal will be the club he probably does go to. When you look at his numbers, like the guy is his numbers since being at Atletico Madrid are very good. This is a guy that scored big goals in a World Cup for Argentina, won a Copa America, won a World Cup, won a treble with Manchester City. His trophy cabinet speaks for itself. This season, he's got, what has he got in terms of his overall current season stats? I think he's got, I actually want to double check that 1 second. I think he's got something like, there you go, the 2025-26 season. So he's got 15 GA in 29 games, including 6 goal contributions in 6 games in the Champions League. Like, that is the sort of player. Now, he's not an out-and-out goal scorer. He is a bit more of a creative player, but he can do both. He can play out on the left. He can play on the 10. He can play as a false 9. I think he will come in if Gabriel Jesus leaves. That, for me, would make logistically the most sense. Now, when you look at his stats by club, his numbers in a Man City shirt, very, very good. He's got 53 goal contributions in 86 games for Atletico Madrid. He's got 193 goal contributions in 311 games. His record in the Champions League is very, very good with 26 goal contributions in 33 games. When you look at his Premier League record, 31 in 67. At this moment in time, it's quite easy for journalists to link players to Arsenal's front line, because Gyökeres is 12 games without a non-penalty goal. You know, Trossard, everyone's seeing the stat on Sky Sports that's doing the rounds. And right now they have to do more. It's literally at this moment in time, they have to do more than what they're doing now. You know, they were 7 points clear. Now, as it stands, the gap slows down to 4. And come this weekend, if they don't get the right result against Leeds United, you know, all of a sudden, the Premier League title race could completely swing. And we all know Man City have been there, seen it and done it. We all know Manchester City love to chase. This isn't the best Manchester City, and they are playing against us on Sunday. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see how that gets on. But as it stands, Arsenal do need someone. Like, their attack isn't firing on all cylinders. I don't think Julián Álvarez will happen this window. I think that it is likely to happen this upcoming summer. But there's lots of stories out. Let me know your thoughts on Douglas Luiz to Villa. Adam Wharton, I'll come back to him. When I look at Liverpool right now, it's going to be really interesting to see if they do sack Arne Slot, which at this moment in time, I'm amazed he's still in a job. When you look at their recent results, the fact that they, you know, similar to Spurs right now, they're doing well in Europe. But look at it. Drew to Sunderland, drew to Leeds, beat Brighton, beat us, beat Wolves, and they drew again to Leeds, drew again to Fulham, drew again to Arsenal, drew again to Burnley. Like, that run of games, look, they should be beating Qarabag. They should be beating Brighton. They should be beating Forest. And they should be beating West Ham. Newcastle United, Man City, and Sunderland, I don't know. You know, the Stadium of Light is not an easy place to go to. Man City, who knows how they get on this weekend? They may be a point, or they may be 7 points. It would depend on how Arsenal and City's results get on. But Adam Wharton, I think he comfortably improves that Liverpool midfield. In fact, I would go as far to say that he's probably one of the most wanted players this upcoming summer in terms of a midfielder. You know, City have been looking at him for a number of years. Chelsea will probably look at him to partner up with Caicedo and play Enzo a bit further forward. The only team that probably won't be looking at him is Arsenal, because they've already got enough midfielders. Man United have been looking at him as well. But look, I think he comfortably improves that Liverpool team. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next time. I'm out.